language was on line 39 of the original bill. You can see where it thank you. I guess we don't even need this then. So on lines 39, the deleted language there was shrimping. It was deleting, it was closing shrimping inside of a half a mile. This clarifies shrimp trawling. And then the original bill at lines 82 and 83 provided that such waters shall be open for shrimping with a net that must be able to be thrown by hand. That's basically clarifying a cast net. So, but there are other nets that guys can use, that recreational folks can use to harvest shrimp. So in the committee sub, it deletes that hand thrown net requirement. There's haul seines and purse and hand seines and other nets that can be used. So that's an explanation of the committee sub. Are there any questions?
Question on the definition of the nets. It's not going to be something that we're going to have to deal with definition of saying that, or any of the stuff that we dealt with on Cat Island from a couple of years ago, correct?
Correct. No, this is just clarifying that. So it was closed to shrimping inside of a half a mile, but individuals were always able to recreationally throw cast nets and catch shrimp inside of, say, Bay St. Louis, for example. But under the existing law being closed to shrimping, that was an issue that came up here in the past year. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Any other questions? All right. I think the first. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
We're on strike all amendment, correct?
Yes. Sir.
Okay.
So we have to have a motion to adopt the strike all.
So moved.
All right. Y'all have heard the motion. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then we're back on the bill, right? And then
Title suspension do pass as amended.
yes. You've heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That bill will be reported out. The next bill is House Bill 1439. I want to make sure that the committee understands this bill. This bill would allow the department to establish oyster harvest areas on the Hancock County shoreline between Bayou Caddy and the Louisiana-Alabama state line. There's several hundred acres of land there that are all state-owned land. There is some land there that's privately owned, but for the most part, the large majority of it is all state-owned lands. This would move the riparian rights to that land from 750 yards into 300 yards that would allow the department to open up some additional area for oyster harvest. Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir.
You said Alabama, Louisiana line. You mean Louisiana line?
I'm sorry, Mississippi, Louisiana boundary, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, you said there's private lands and public lands.
Right.
Okay. But this bill affects both?
No, it only affects the state-owned lands. And that's in the committee sub. If you look at your committee sub and lines 16 through 20, we added the clarification there that it's only affecting state-owned lands along that shoreline from Bayou Caddy to the Mississippi-Louisiana boundary. That state-owned land requirement was not in the original House bill, but we added it here to clarify that it's not affecting private property owners.
How is that going to be enforced, or have you looked at it on a map to see how that provision would be in, or well, how you could, as the private landowner, still establish your land area? I mean, what are we going to do since we're changing it for everything else except for these areas? There's nothing that is going to prevent people from continuing to oyster across or along the shoreline, correct? Or what happens to those landowners that have oysters that are within that differential area where You can collect on one side and collect on the other side. You're not supposed to collect from the private land?
Right.
Is that
'Cause
right?
that's not permitted. That's not going to be permitted by the state. Because right now, private landowners riparian rights go out 750 yards. The department can't permit a oyster area inside of that 750 yards. This, only for state-owned lands, would shorten the riparian rights to 300 yards. That would open up that 450-yard area for the department to permit for oyster harvest. If you look on the bill, starting at lines 15, it's very similar to what they did off Deer Island, where they shortened the riparian rights around Deer Island to 400 yards to allow them to bring those off bottom oyster productions closer to Deer Island.
Okay, so the department's not going to have a problem with enforcement or anything like that?
No, and
With
to your
this?
point, there is a map out there and there's a handful of areas on the east shoreline going down towards St. Joe Point and then around the corner on the other side that would be affected by this.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Suggest maybe Bob to look at the language. If those receiving 15, 515, except for state-owned lands, and then except for the Hancock shoreline. So the intent is for it to be state-owned lands. Would it be or to accept state-owned lands on both places?
Senator Hobson, that's what we did in the committee sub. I'm sorry, I didn't. No, sir.
So, strike out.
Strike all, yeah.
Strike all.
Except is on line 14 in your strike all, and then again on line 16. If you want to put A and B, we
No,
can
no,
do
no,
that.
no, no, no.
Okay. Yeah, I had the same thought that's why we have the strike. You've heard the motion. Any other questions from any of the committee members? All right, you've heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You've heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One more.
Rise and report.
All those in favor?